View Inspector is a great tool for unit testing SwiftUI code, but it does have its limits. And what happens when we reach those limits? Do we give up on unit testing? No, not entirely. Let's find another way in this live coding session. Hello, people. Welcome back, or welcome to the Quality Coding live stream, and Happy New Year. Glad you're here. Got our little quorum good enough to go of our handful of people, including, of course, Mudshark and Garbob. And others will join as usual, I suppose. We'll see. Whatever. If it's just us, it's just us. It's good. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be back after a month off. Had a good time with family. Hello, the Coder Tricks. Welcome, welcome. Hey, Bill. William Wake in the house. I was showing off my mug there because that's going to be the new mug going forward. The I Am Your Father mug sadly died. It was a good mug for a long time. So anyway, we're all mad here. Let's get going and see what's going on. By the way, something that is conspicuously maybe missing along the bottom. This list of stuff here is the Hire Me thing is gone. Hello. I am starting a new job tomorrow. Pretty excited. Very, very excited, actually. So, and it will be my hope, my wish was to get back into iOS development. Shift out of coaching. I'll never take my coaching hat off. I can't. It's part of my head. Martin. Hello, hello. First time chatter. Thank you. So yeah, I figured with all the changes happening in the Apple ecosystem over the last 2-3 years, I needed to get back in, or I wasn't going to get back in ever. So I'm glad. All right, let's get into Mastermind. And where we left things, you can see I just made up a notation here of 3 stars for this is bad and broken. Background updates, but initial disabled test fails. I have a memory of this. Hello, Alexander. Welcome, that engineering Alexander. And wow, so many first-time chatters. See him. Great to have everyone. Hey, if you don't mind, something I always like to know is where in the world are you? Mudshark volunteers as usual, setting a good example of being in Sweden. Where are the rest of you folks who are whose names are new to me? Anyway, glad to have you. Wow, there are a lot of people here. All right. Algeria. Awesome. See him. Great. Well, let's review. Let me run the code. So this is our very young mastermind game. in which there are two colors we can guess from. So it's going to be a shuffled version of those colors. It's going to be black or brown. Which is it? Black here, brown here, brown here, black here? We don't know. If I say black, black, oh, the secret was black, brown. But you notice what we're working on is the check button. Oh, Martin. All right. Thank you. I was wondering. I put that in the announcement in LinkedIn. I often don't because I figure that's not as an immediate place that people are looking at all the time, but it's becoming more of a social place, isn't it? Anyway, thank you for coming. Swiftcraft at Folkestone was a good time. 2 dinosaurs. Wow. A lot of folks here. So the check button is what we're trying to get in place. Instead of having it just pop up, I want to pause. I want to say you can check your guess now, which in the future means first Twitch. Great. I'm really glad. We want the check button to be something that the player taps, the code breaker, and to say, I'm ready to check the guess now. And you can see it turned blue once 2 slots were filled in, which is the requirement. But before that, it is disabled. This behavior is good. It is correct. It is not passing the tests. And here I have some sad news. So this is the test I wish would work, and it's a little uglier than the others because I got rid of the boilerplate to try to get it down to something that I could share with the maintainer of View Inspector. And the word from that side of the world is we've hit the limit. View Inspector cannot test this as is. It's too bad. The reason is, we go and look at where the check button itself is disabled. So you can see it's disabled if is complete. The game guess is complete is false. It's disabled. That's a lot of negatives. This works, but SwiftUI can't see into it. If this were a environment variable of our own creation, something we handled, something we set the value on, then I think it would be fine that SwiftUI, View Inspector would be able to handle it, to see it, to know what to do with it. But it's basically, as far as View Inspector is concerned, it's magic. We can't touch it. So, my thought on this, good question. How then shall we test it? Or do we give up? And I'd rather have it tested because it is logic. It is important logic that's in there. So, since View Inspector is out, we've gone as far as it can go. My thought is, let's bring in snapshot tests. It makes me a little sad, but I think it can work. And this is something I was thinking about long before I started this project, and back before I even knew about View Inspector, was how do we work with SwiftUI tests? What if there were no view inspector? So let's snapshot this thing visually. But I would like to snapshot this by itself, not the whole thing, because that's what I want to test. So, couple things to do. Let's go back to our board here. I also added some notes as I'm starting finally to write about SwiftUI TDD. Blog posts are coming. A blog post is coming out in 2 days, but it's not about this. It is actually about my work at my last client. What is it about? It is about tackling a 1,000-line view controller, and that had practically no tests, and bring it under test. These things are things I discovered in the course of starting to write that I want to get back to. But for now, let's see, check the guess button. Oh, the check guess button, not check the guess button. It's the check button. We set the background color. Now, set background color now that we can test it. Well, we can test the disabled appearance, but we can't do this. So we want to snapshot. Is it possible to use preview to test the button with snapshot? I have no idea. I saw somebody had written an article about incorporating previews into their automated testing. And frankly, I don't get it. That doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means I'm old. So let's snapshot. To do that, let's add this. Package dependencies, that's what we want. Oh, there it is, right there. That looks fine. Interesting. It brings along 2 packages now. The inline snapshot testing, which is a nice feature. I don't know that we'll use it, but I don't think there's a way. I mean, can I say we're not going to do that? I'll just add it for now. The thing with inline tests is they're not good for images. They're for snapshots of object structure. So I'm going to say none after all. Here it comes. That added, looks like it added Swift syntax to do that. And so as long as this builds tests, this is good. All right. All good. This is I'm going to call it an environment change. Add snapshot testing. And push. do we need to fake the resulting display to make the wanted snapshot? No idea. What I do want to do is make this, kind of give it its own, make it not private. In fact, what I'd like to do is pull it out into its own file, I think, so that we can test it. I think I've shown this, but I don't know if I don't know if I have. This is something I learned. I can't even remember who to give credit to. I saw it on LinkedIn from one of you. Cut. And come over here and paste. Ta-da. It does add the annoying file header block. I'd love to get rid of that. Oh, look at this. Thank you, GitHub, created by Tux Team. Who the heck is that? Yeah, it's conservative about imports. Conservative in a funny way. All right, so with that, we should, this is kind of funny, but I want to check that this is okay. And we have one test failure, so let's just check that we still have only one test failure, that all this builds and is fine. Great. To me, this is semi-automated in that if it builds, oh, Marcus. Hello, Marcus. Are you back? I mean, in Twitch land? It's good to have you. And I start tomorrow. Haha. Let's see. This was, so I consider this, if it's labeled here as automated refactoring, but to me it's like if it builds, and including the tests, that is a low, that is low risk. All right, now, I should actually get rid of the failing test because it's not doing us any favors. It's sad, but we must dismiss it, bid it farewell. Let's take a look at it first. Check button disabled. Is initially disabled. Yeah, let's just get rid of it. It's now bogging us down. So we'll go back to green. Basically, this isn't TDD at this point. Remove remove test we can't pass. So Alexander asks, what parts of Swift testing are you waiting for? You'll notice I'm not using Swift testing here. And the primary reason is that View Inspector is tied to XCTest. You want to know how old I am? I am. You all take for granted now that Xcode comes with a testing framework. I am so old that wasn't the case. I remember when they added Send Testing Kit as the default. Did Apple package it by a different name? I don't remember anymore. But when I wrote OC Hamcrest, which is a matching tool, very useful for tests, I'm pretty sure there was no integrated testing framework. It was kind of the Wild West. And then Apple chose one that was a third-party thing they incorporated that was successful. And then they came out with XCTest. And at that point, I had to switch my OC Hamcrest to be able to support either Send Testing Kit or XCTest. And basically, I'm like, it could support either, or it could just throw an exception if it can't find anything at all. And so I had to divorce OC Hamcrest from its direct ties to Send Testing Kit. Oh, yeah, Martin. Pre-ARC. Yeah. Those were the days. Retain and release all by yourself. ARC is a great invention. So View Inspector currently is tied to XCTest. And really, I don't know, maybe I should take a stab at looking at it to see how we can separate it. So because of that, that's why I am using XCTest, at least for these tests. Currently doing cross-platform UI tests using Appium. Oh, interesting. How's that been going for you? My caution is don't rely too much on UI tests. In my other side project, I finally added like 4 UI tests. This is across 2 apps. A single workspace that can build 2 apps. A lot of session manager. So, do what you can with unit tests. And then when you need to. New for our team. Oh, so be careful. Don't be seduced by Appium. Don't be seduced by it. It promises if you hitch your wagon to it, if you get married to it, you will be filled with regret. Guarantee. All right, check button. Let's add some note that I'm not saying don't use Appium. I'm saying keep them to bare minimum. Usually the advice, and it's sound advice for full end-to-end UI-based testing, is to test your essential happy path. And nothing more, if you can help it. Okay, check button. We have our tests here. Let's add a check button snapshot tests. Now, this doesn't have to be XE test. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do Swift testing for this? Give it a whirl, make sure it fails in the way we expect. You may be surprised to find that though I'm working in Swift testing for this, I'm using a class, not a struct. This is on purpose. I think that using a struct prevents you from doing things with Swift testing that are helpful. It has downsides. And I think using a class has all the benefits and no downsides. Happy to discuss that. Anyway, let's go. We want to check enabled. The enabled color. That's really what we want. Okay, let's see if we can do this. Okay, now I'm going, because I'm not sure that I've written a snapshot test for SwiftUI view before. How about that? This will be a new time. I assume we have to put it in a hosting thing. Let's add some comments. Basically, I want to create a check button with how is this going to work? I have no idea. Now I boldly said, let's do this thing. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how to do this thing. Like, what the heck is it? Excuse me a second. Mute. You don't want to hear my nasty ass cough. I had RSV over the holiday. Yeah. Do not recommend. Let's see here. Their example is still old. Preview snapshots. This looks plausible. That's it? You make the thing and you snapshot it? Now I worry because the case that we have, well, let's see. Oh, unfortunately, this doesn't work. Yes, I assumed it had to have a hosting controller. 2VC. Content view. So this is an extension on SwiftUI view that turns it into a view controller. This looks decent. Let's copy this and stick it in here. I really wish it would just import stuff. You're right. What a pain. So can I now say check button Hey, Marcus. Yeah, you know, it's been a while. Here's how it works. This is somebody else's functioning game. All right, we have the secret code is hiding under this. It is a combination of these colors. So I guess, let's see. Now there's the check button. Notice that this is the behavior I want. It's disabled right now. Oh, interesting. It wasn't entirely disabled. It's pretending to be disabled. And I say check, and it looks like, now here's the feedback. I get 2 black, which means I have 2 colors in the correct position. Somewhere in here, 2 colors are correct. Is it this one? Oops. Let's go back here. Going back is another thing. Actually, I want to play it really conservatively and say, is it the green one? It is not. But I have 2 colors now, white, in 2 colors in the incorrect position. I suppose it's kind of like Wordle. So black, green, black, black. Oh. So I think black and green are good. Expect 4. Oh, I win! I broke the code in only 4 guesses. So if we say search snapshot. Oh, I need to import it. Thank you. I kind of figured it out. So here's the grand experiment. What's it complaining about? I remember playing the game, the physical board game with the pegs. Assert snapshot of, and last is that this should be Main actor. I see no reason not to just slap it there. All right. Drum roll. This test will fail because there is no matching snapshot image. Then one of snapshot testing's nice features is that instead of having to set it to record mode, it's like, you know, I don't have an image, so I'm recording automatically. Here we go. Let's see if it gives us something useful. And thanks to it, the new Xcode project format, where this mirrors the file structure, here it is. We can take a look. And there it's blue, as we want. I think that's good. One thing I do want to be careful of is I want to make sure that this is not included in anything, any target. Here. Because of how I am now favoring structuring my tests intertwinkled with a production code in the folder here. The thing you have to be careful of is target membership. And that, I think, would be easy. Like if you were to do this in a group collaborative team project, I think you'd want to build a project linter to check the rules that, like, anything inside of tests, anything inside of snapshots should be excluded. Like, it should have no target. Anything inside of tests should be in a test target, and so on. So there it is. If you like, we can see the opposite. It might be useful to see the disabled behavior, even though we have a test for it. But first, let's check this in. Right, so this is a new test. Snapshot check button enabled. It feels funny not to have the disabled test right next to it, even though that may be guaranteed by the game screen tests. Now, here's enabled is blue. So this is bogus. This test is bogus. It's accidentally blue. It's blue because disabled didn't work. So I think it makes sense to initially disabled. That's fine. But the color, yeah, let's get rid of this. And instead come back to our snapshot tests and add another. I'm just going to move it up like that. Like that. Disabled color for disabled true. I expect this, I predict that, I'm not doing TDD, but this is adding tests to existing code. It's still helpful to call the shot. I predict we'll see a new image with a nice grayed out check button. Here it comes. There we go. And now it's easy to see. So, there it is. What did you have to do for custom decoder? Decoding is a fun thing to TDD. Encoding and decoding. Of puzzle codes. Huh. Interesting. All right. So good news. I now consider this done. And could you force a failure? Thank you. Great idea. Let's do that. Back in the game screen, where we have the check button, like here it is, right? Not. Boink. A quick way to do mutation testing. Excuse me, I've got this pesky gnat. Come on. Good way to do mutation testing is for something that's Boolean is just flip it. Add a knot, remove a knot. So now let's see what the failure looks like. Test failed, 2 failures. Wait. Oh, that's not the failure. This is different. This is a different failure. I was expecting something else to change, but this is different. This is correct. So this is on check button is initially disabled. Yeah. I went and did it in the wrong place. So that's good. It catches that. Now let's go over to the check button itself. It's a bug. On check button, let us here. Now I'll add it there. Now we should see 2 failures on good. Okay, now here's what it looks like. I don't have kaleidoscope because maybe I will at some point. I've been trying to save money while I've been looking for a new job, trying not to spend too much money while I was ensuring my employment. If you have kaleidoscope, it's really nice because you can kaleidoscope is the only visual diff tool that I know of. If you know of another visual diff tool, put that in the chat. But snapshot testing integrates with kaleidoscope, so you can say use this as the diff tool, and it'll pop it up. Without it, what I do is I'll say here it's comparing against disabled color 1. Okay, we have that. We can see it easily. Here's the other one. Here's the recorded, the actual. And so what I do is I say, open that. Now for me, that happens to open in, not in preview, but in Pixelmator. But what I do then is say, okay, that's the actual. And I can now compare that and say, well, if I open up the expected also, there it is. And now I can tab between them and easily see, oh, there's the difference. Kaleidoscope, of course, gives you, like, if a single pixel is off, it'll say, just show me, you can see the diffs. You can see the pixel diffs. So it's nice on that front. So a little funny, but not bad, right? It's not something I would want to use all the time, but we could, and we did. And I'm glad. Disabled appearance. Set. This is change. When enabled. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now, before we move on to actually making the button useful, right now it either it's there, but tapping it, well, we can't even tap it really. Have to hide that sheet. But there are a few other things I want to do in this project. Let me just bring them into play here. One is Xcode warnings. Let's move these out of the way here, and I'm just going to add, oops, sundry project. I don't know what to call it. We'll come back here. I'm going to leave that in play as a reminder to myself, but let's just do some parenting here. All right. It would be nice if there were a visual diff inspector. One thing I want to do is add Xcode warnings. This is my tool to turn warnings up all the way. And the main reason I want to do this is to make sure we're not breaking Swift 6 rules. I don't know how painful that's going to be. These others are more pertinent to SwiftUI. I don't want to do wall. Wall is too much. Let me change the order here. All right, here's one thing. So these are in preparation, some things I'm learning as I start to actually write about SwiftUI and testing. One is that in the game screen tests, to get at things, I'm doing view with ID or view with tag. I think I saw maybe in a. Here's a view with tag. So I've got a couple different ways of finding things, and I think neither is quite right. View with tag Let's see, if we go to the game screen, check button. Oh, in check button itself. What is tag? So tag's intention is to differentiate between selectable views for a picker or a tab. And that seems to go against things. What I would like to do instead is change this to an accessibility identifier instead of a tag. So let's put that in place. This is going to be should be a swap out refactoring. Let's look for check button. So instead of view with tag, I can say view with accessibility identifier, and this should still pass. Let's find the other one. Any other one? Thanks for coming, Marcus. I'll see you. See you soon. With this now, I should be able to get rid of the tag and have it work. Good. Use instead of tag. That's that's one. The other view with ID, code choices, and a bunch of digging down. ID is another one that we should probably not use in that way. The purpose of ID, let me bring these side by side. I'm looking for code choices. The purpose of ID is to be a unique identifier so that you can tell views apart, especially as they move around, right? That also seems like something we should not touch. So let's do this same refactoring. You've used the diff tool meld on Linux, though it has no official release. Third-party ports should be available via Homebrew. I haven't heard of that one. Right, so I expect this will pass. We are refactoring, staying in green. Having done that, we can now get rid of the ID. Okay, so that's good. That seemed important. Here's another. Something I discovered in the tests. we had to do some mucking around to handle, including doing this monstrosity of doing a testable import of View Inspector to get at, hey, thanks for coming, Alexander. Have a good time at church. My church will be later today watching online our daughter's church that we love in Hawaii. So we're doing this monstrosity to get at this. This is like none of our business. The known view type is internal, and we're using it. And the reason we're doing that is that these things are used in both straight passes of like make a view and check some values on it, or check a changing view. In order to be able to handle both, we had to come up with this hack. But there's an even better way. And that was not to tie it. It is already an inspectable view of V. And we've restricted V. Here's the trick. All we have to do is not restrict it. And just make it inspectable view of thing. With that, we should be able to get rid of the @testable. Oh! Shouldn't need that anymore. I think. Let's try it. Here we go. Good. So, bit of cleanup there. To avoid using View Inspector internals, we come up with an even easier thing. And that's a test-only change. Find view with unrestricted. Can't type. So, yay. One more thing I won't do in the stream, but I do plan to do, something we've discussed, is that and maybe it's okay for what we have here, but in general, instead of doing any sort of digging, including digging from this, oh, there's a view with ID here. That's a mistake. No, it's not. That ID is actually meaningful. That's the different colors. That's proper. What was I saying? Anytime you look up a view, it seems like we should have a little helper to do that for you, so that if things change, you only change it in one place. For example, I think we have a couple of places where we're doing this. Yeah. Let's extract this. Okay, let's do this. This is the check button. And what I really want is the button. The find just returns a generic view, and then the button is like, and turn it into a button. So let's I don't know if there's an easy way to extract this. Let's try this much. I'm going to try to... Oh, it did it. So this is the check button of a view. And here's the magic inspectable type V. And we want a button back. And it should throw. Let's make sure this passes. Good. So now I'm going to move this down. This is the kind of view finder that I'm favoring now. I don't know if there's an easy way. Maybe I'll come up with a code snippet to do most of this. But the keys are make it a generic inspectable view on V. Make it throwing. Return an inspectable view of the type of thing you want. Make sure you pass it back. That would be interesting to try, Mudshark. Maybe we'll give that a whirl after all this is said and done. So this is extract check button. Could it be an extension method on inspectable view? Yeah, I think I might want to come back to, well, here, clearly, we've got two parameters, the view and the ID that we're looking up. What would it look like? So if we have extension, can we do this? There's the problem, is inspectable view itself is a generic. So how do you do that? I don't know. Let's see if we can. What would it look like to not pass in that? Oh ho ho! Oh really? Interesting. Let's try this. So instead of check button view, we'd say take the view check button private Look at that. It doesn't seem to need... I'm surprised that we can do this. So thanks, Bill. Let's see if this works. Interesting. Interesting. Now, what are the advantages, disadvantages of doing this? This is a more functional style. But look at how much simpler this is. It gets rid of the generics. It's just like look for the check button. I like it. Doggone, Bill. Maybe passing the ID too if we have multiple buttons. View. Oh, this is looking nice. Okay. I did not think of this, and I'm excited to have you catch this before I start writing about tips for using View Inspector. This is even better. I love it. Make check button an extension instead. Haha. Oh man. Let's do these others. Even though they're ugly, let's take them as they are. So if we take that and say we don't need B, we don't need that. I don't like the name get. But if we now come here, I should be able to say SUT inspect get code choice. Oh, look, this is, look at how much better this is. Get code choice color 0. Do you need to specify self instead of view in that end? So view went away, like it just disappeared. And it's calling find on itself. Find being the inspection method. Doggone, look at how much better this is. Oh man, I'm happy. Can I make this file private? If it's private out here, can it still reach it? It can. Because I want to limit the blast radius. And get code choice color. I kind of want to rename that to just oh. Hey, my happy boy. Bill, calm down. One more for good luck. Not private. V goes away. View disappears because view is self. This comes out. This ID is fine. Should be okay. Oh, I'm loving it. And now this should disappear. And now I can rename this. Beauty. So we added a task in here. And this was Ink Finder's extension. Move viewfinders in vendors into inspectable view extension. Oh, I'm happy with that. All right, we are in the home stretch of this live coding session. I like to do these for 90 minutes. We could do that. I'd like to, just to make sure. You're on the subscript operator train too. May have to play with that. You know, do the thing I don't like to see if I like it. But let's do Xcode warnings to make sure that we're not introducing crap. Xcode warnings, you should be able to just Google. No, there's well, this blog post coming up high is probably just because it's like, oh, it's your blog. You know where it is. But if you scroll down far enough, you should be able to find it on GitHub. And here it is. If you're not familiar with it, it is just an XE config for you to copy and comment things out that are not helpful to you. But let's bring it in and let's do this. Oop, come back. Oh, I do have Xcode warnings. Never mind. I've already got it in place. Including the ever important upcoming features. Don't need this anymore because this is the old way to do it for Xcode 15, and these are the new flags for Xcode 16. The key thing to note about Xcode warnings is, or any XE config, is you come to your project, not your target, your project settings, into info and in configurations. Once you have an XE config in your project file, you can select it. Then you have to go into your build settings and basically delete, kind of painstakingly comb through. These are in sections, so you can do them in large blocks. And I've identified the name of the sections to say, you know what, delete any overrides. So that means coming in here and finding anything that is in, not anything that matches it in bold, and hitting delete so that it leans on the configuration file and not on the project settings. But I've already got that in place, so that is a no-brainer. So this turned out to be SwiftUI testing improvements, which I'm gonna consider done. I'm not sure about subscript, maybe. Partly because here it makes sense. Index. There it makes sense. But for an ID, that can be anything. Anyway, I think we're at a good point now where we can get back into now driving the rest of the check button. How about if we get rid of the sheet that comes up? That sheet was there really as a temporary thing. When I say temporary, I mean it was a stepping stone, a building block. Inspectable sheet is presented. So I can just, for now, there are tests that drove this. I could disable the tests, but I want the behavior to be where we can actually see and tap the button. So for now, I am going to disable this. I'm going to run the tests to see which ones complain about it. And I'll disable them. There we go. That'll make it easier to work with. Oh, this is left over. That was me trying it out for size. So this is a feature change. Oh, wrong. Feature change, one-liner. All right, let's do a retro. What did we learn? I forgot to set this up in advance, as I usually do. What did we do? View inspector can't see into magically wired environment. And by magically, I mean we didn't do it, Apple did it. But we were able to do a narrow snapshot at that. I don't want to snapshot the whole thing. We're going to be testing, adding more and more to the whole game screen view. So instead, we chose to do a very narrow snapshot to test the disabled state. And that it comes through in the environment correctly. So that was a win. Big, nice win. What else? I mean, what we just did, of course, which was, well, more than that, use prefer. Prefer accessibility identifiers to find the views. Much better. When finders are in extension. Yeah. Digging that. Really digging that. Is there anything else? I think that about covers things. Anything else on your end? Anything you learned or we discussed? Wasn't a whole lot of off-topic stuff. A little meta, but you pushing to find another way when one failed. Yeah. Rather than just throwing up our hands and saying, it doesn't work. There's a time to give up, I think. But if we could just push ourselves a little more to say, isn't there a way to automate this? Our life will be better. I'm going to move these over. Cool. All right. That's a wrap. Thanks very much for joining. This was a lot of fun. I got great stuff out of it, and that's going to affect all my testing going forward, and the blog posts that I'm starting to write about the stuff about all this stuff that you've been so helpful with. I really appreciate you. Thanks, Bill. Yeah, day one, big corporate job. It's going to be really strange to go back into big corporate land after years in tiny company. So I'm looking forward to it. Look for blog posts to come, including the one in 2 days about tackling a large view controller, massive view controller, and the tricks I used to bring it under test. With that, let's call it a wrap. And don't. Yeah, thanks, Maverick. No, I will do my best not to become a drone, and I'm not expecting to. You know, I'm not young anymore, so I'm not going in with a thing of like I'm gonna fix this company. No, but I'll see if I can't make a dent. All right. Take care. I will see you in next week. Thank you very much.